All right. Hello, everyone. Guess it's Dead Air Radio is back. This is going to be season 2, episode 1. Look at that. We had a first season that we didn't even know we had. And so we're back, season 2, episode 1. I'm your host, Steve Fletch. And we have back Mitch Hartman as co-host, who does exist. Mitch, how's it going?
I know, we're back at it.
Yeah,
Been a
it's
long time.
unreal. Hey, what was it, like a 9-month, 10-month hiatus?
Yeah, now that our lives aren't chaos all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Now we're just gonna have this chaos as the podcast on occasion,
Yeah.
but it's good. So today's episode, since some things have changed, I guess, since the last time we've done this.
A little different.
This is also like the first announcement, but yeah, that DOA is DOA, so there is no more brand. Still there in spirit. This is the death of a small brand. And I guess there's the ups and downs of doing something on a smaller scale, and this is the end. And this is how things end up ending. So, not to be
And I
depressing.
gotta say, man, I absolutely loved the time that I spent there. It was the best thing that happened to me in skateboarding in the last 20 years. I loved working for DOA, getting to know everybody. It was an awesome experience. My first time being a sales rep for anything, and it was great.
Yeah, and it was great to have you. So, shout out John Devine. Because he was the one who's like, "Hey, you should have Mitch do sales," and I was like, "He wouldn't want to do that," and he's like, "No, I'll hit him up," and I was like, "Hey, Mitch, you want to do sales?" And you're like, "Sure, that sounds cool. What do I do?"
Yeah, I've
I was
always
like,
been
"Yeah,
on the other end, like the shop end, but now I'm,
yeah." So
on
you
that
had
side
the
of it. And it was definitely a good time.
well, that's being on the other end of it too. It's kind of like, all right, I know what not to say to keep somebody on the phone or responding to an email because I had to deal with this, and I know who sucked when they called, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not here, And there's people you
Yeah.
want to talk to, so it's good to have that inside knowledge. But yeah, it was a good run, 4+ years, which
Yeah.
is like,
I was there for three years. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah, it was a fun time. So it's like the 8th brand that I failed. It's another notch on the belt. But yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it. Again, what I've learned is you need money to do things to keep the brand going. If you're not out there in the streets filming and you have control of all of that, you're never going to get content. I've learned that one. Um, it's just different times, Like I'm sure Mitch, when you were out, you guys still. I'm not even going to say when you were younger. You and your friends are still out there filming and doing it, and you guys film each
Yeah.
other. But people do that now. It's you know, no, I don't have a filmer. And it's like, oh, well, if we had money, I could send you on a trip because that's what we used to do. It was just like, hey, there's money in the account. Well, let's blow it. Here you go. Who am I sending somewhere? And you got to kind of pick too because it's like, airfare, paying a filmer for a week, having somebody stay there, like that costs $1,000, or something, depending on the rider. The late great Drew Grabowski. I sent him to San Francisco, and I think he missed 3 flights and had to reschedule like 5 times. So it's like, ugh, this went from a $500 trip to a $1,200 trip. Like, great, now there's no more money for anything else. But he got stuff done, and it rained. I think like if he was there for 6 days, it rained 4. You know,
Yeah. And all the stuff that's completely out of your control, but you still have to deal with it.
yeah, yeah. So you got to kind of pick and choose because I've learned that one too. You can't send a guy who you don't know what you're going to get out of him. You
Yeah.
kind of have to go. When I used to have Ben Havran, like that was great. I could send Ben to San Francisco for a week, filmed a part. Herb Brown, best skater in the universe. Send him to San Francisco for a week. He films a part. You know, And
Yeah.
he filmed enough where even the filmer was like, my friend Ryan Flores, and he was like, "Hey, can I keep some of this?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, sure. There's enough to go around. You keep half, and I'll take half." So win-win there. But
Yeah, for sure.
it's hard. So if you don't have that money and you're not out there where you can get out and film these guys, nothing gets
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. We definitely went through some weird phases too, because right when I took over was like we had a season of boards in stock, and then the pandemic hit, and then we went 6 months with no boards. We got boards in, and they all sold out before we even had them in hand.
Even before, that's a great one to bring up. Like, even just board, having boards. And it's like, depending what wood shop you use,
Hmm.
where we were using South Central, who I've been using, dealing with them for, God, almost 10 years. Like, which is pretty crazy to think about. Even longer ago, many failed brands ago, but that's how I found out about them. KCDC used to use them. And my friend worked at KCDC, and Dan King, and he worked there, and he was like, "Why don't you use?" Forget who I was using. I was using Penswood and Chapman when Chapman actually pressed boards at the time. And he was like, "Why don't you just use
Hmm.
South Central?" And I go, "What the hell's South Central?" And he's like, "That's what KCDC uses for the shop boards. They're good boards." And I remember going into KCDC like, "All right, cool. I'm gonna look at these boards." And I was like, "Oh, they look okay." You know, I think Coda was using them at the time too. And I remember I saw this Pat Smith board, and it had a rooster on it, and I was like, "All right, cool. Try this." And it was a flat one. They must have screwed up and made it an e-mold. Like, oh, we don't have enough wood like here and through. So randomly, I had this board that I loved, and I remember I was like, yeah, I'm gonna use this brand. Like, this wood company's great. And I hit them up, and then I was asking about it, and they're like, yeah, we have this flat mold too we can run using South Central. I hit them up, and then there was Chris and over there, and we would talk, and he was cool. I don't want to snowball things, but he was lenient with payment,
Yeah.
which is good, but it's also like you get used to it, and it's kind of like, well, you're not paying us, so I'm not rushing to do your stuff. Um, but anyway, the boards were good, but they do run differently than if you had a more pay on time wood shop, using like PS sticks or something like that. We'll say, where I'm sure that's
Right. Right.
real deal. You pay up front, you get your boards. They'll give you a time frame when you're going to get them, and they'll probably be a little off. With South Central, it was either you know 3 months, 12 months. When I started DOA, I was using Clutch, and it was before everybody in the universe started using them, and I could get boards in 3 weeks, which was crazy. And I remember
Yeah,
they
that's
also
crazy turnaround.
so that helped in the beginning, even though I wasn't selling any boards. I think I did like it was like 50 boards in the beginning. Um, the first run, but I had them quick. So it was pretty cool. Like, oh, I sold out. I can get new boards super fast. It's helpful. With South Central, you got to think, 3, 4 months in advance. You got to plan your boards are going to take, 16 weeks. Um, you
Right.
know, so it should be normally it would be like 8 weeks from you know, it used to anyway, for the most part, 8 weeks pre-COVID, normal manufacturer, 8 to 12 weeks, we'll say. Anybody else, and South Central 16 to 20, and they tell you, it'll be in Friday, and you're waiting. They mean well. I don't think they did it on purpose, but it's one of those things. So you're trying to plan around exactly, and then with COVID going on, and it's like I could sell so many boards right now, but I can't because I don't have
But
them.
you
And
can't
then
get
yeah,
them.
they came in, and I still remember that like people who didn't answer emails. And I remember seasons like, how many can we get? I was like thinking like, oh, they're gonna take like 20 boards or something huge. And it was like, can we get 100? I'm like, what? 100? Sure. And I remember having to cut back from their order because other places wanted them, and you have to kind of.
Oh, I remember all those orders. As soon as I sent the pre-book out, it was like, oh, I'll take 60. Oh, I'll take 40. And it was like shops that would normally order a dozen if we were lucky.
Yeah, yeah. It was really
But
cool. It was crazy
I
to
mean, that was
see.
definitely the upside of them making the boards in the States is, you know,
Yeah,
they were getting them and turnaround was so much faster than all the China wood
yeah,
spots.
yeah. They were able to turn around. I wish they could have turned it around even quicker, but that's also everybody's like, hey, instead of we were pressing 800 boards, 1,000. I think I might have even had a run at 1200, but and it was like, so normal people would be like, oh, I need 2,000 boards or something because
Yeah.
you can sell more now. So now all their orders increased. So their supply, they're pushing more boards out, and it slows it down because everybody's ordering more. So the orders take longer to do. But yeah, there
And
was a
then
time
weren't
during,
they able to buy their own heat transfer machine that they didn't have before because of how
yeah,
busy they were through COVID?
well, they had it, and they always said they were going to get it, and then they had it, and they'd use it. I don't know how often they used it. It was weird because sometimes they're still like, we're waiting on your transfers. I'm like, but I thought you had the machine. Um, but he would show me pictures like of their machine, and it was pretty cool. It, like prints out like 8 or 10 of the graphics like in a row. So it's like a big
And
machine,
they
and
just
then
cut it.
yeah. Um, so that it was that you would think helped, but it never nothing ever seemed to really speed it up. And
Yeah.
and then it was so during COVID it was cool, but it was just selling through what I normally would have ordered. I don't think I ever really ordered more because the orders there was the one, and then COVID hit, so who knew what to expect. So it wasn't
Yeah,
as big as
exactly.
it
Like,
should have
there was
been.
no way to predict that boom of like now all of a sudden way more people are skating and you're trying to sell boards that you don't have.
Right, yeah, because I'm waiting still 3 months anyway. So this was before it even happened. The orders in January 1st, waiting for March, and then it's like,
Right.
oh, April, May. Now I'm waiting 6 months for boards. You know, and that was one thing happened too. So Ben Haverin, when he left, it was like I can't even offer you boards to stay. I don't have any. If Jamie Thomas, God, Jamie
Yeah.
Thomas, but if he's gonna give you boards and you really want to ride for zero, I was like, dude, I'm just gonna kick you off. So you have to do it. They me thinking in my head too, like it's zero. You're gonna get on, and they'll be able to like pay you something. Like you're getting royalties here, but it's zero, right? You'd think like they must
Yeah, it's
pay
got to be something.
something. No, and I think he's still flow. But I was like, I don't even have boards. I can't even bribe you and say like, hey, I'm going to give you boards. You have nothing to
Hmm.
skate. You have no boards. Take boards from him if he wants to do that, and he's that excited.
And that was another good South Central thing was, we had his board ready to go and they went and cut his name out of the transfers
Yeah, they did. I forgot about
just
that.
to save, yeah, just to save us so we weren't stuck with a million transfers for a board that we couldn't sell.
Yeah, because it took so long. So that was cool. And I remember that, Mitch. That's good. Totally forgot about that. And there was his board with the gun with the cigarettes in it.
Yeah.
And it had a name. I named that board. Don't remember what it was called, but
Yeah, I always just thought it was called the Revolver graphic
yeah, it was. Oh God,
because it was from like a Mad magazine or
it
something,
was. It
right?
was a back cover of Mad Magazine, and
Yeah.
the first one I remember I did was powder blue, and then I did yellow ones. And
Hmm.
but I remember that, and I was like, his name was Little on it, and I was like, can we do anything? And they're like, yeah, I can cut him out. And I was like, all right, cool. And they cut it out. There was
Yeah.
another time when I did the American Dream series, and there was a Statue of Liberty board, and I put the date on it, and they like forgot it. Like something happened. I don't know how it got lost, but it said like
Oh, I remember
1995,
this.
and
Wasn't it missing a number?
yeah, it was missing. It was like 199, and I was like, where are the fives? And he's like, oh, we'll silk screen them on, and they did. They silk screened the fives onto every graphic, so that was pretty cool. So
That's awesome.
yeah, they
Like caught their mistake and just fixed it instead of
yeah, and I don't
just being
know.
like, oh well, it is what it is.
It could have even been my mistake somehow with my program. I don't think it
Hmm.
was, but yeah, they fixed it. They were always down to work with everybody. They were really good to work with. I think the good outweighed the bad. The
Yeah, for
bad
sure.
bad is also me being delusional. Like, who's going to get bored in 3 days? Like everybody wants that, and I'm not paying you that well because I'm waiting for money from shops. I got riders I got to pay. Their royalties or whatever. So, they would get their money when they got it, but I always make sure like we have it, or hey, I have half. I'm going to give you half. Try and at least I don't want to be the worst dude they've dealt with.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they deal with a lot of that. But yeah, it was a great
Yeah,
while
so it was a good run when we had boards and
when we had boards,
you know,
and they would make the flat
yeah.
boards, which I'd sell online because the shops didn't want them. So that was cool. I liked having those. That was even just for me. I was like, oh, these are great, and people
They
liked
made
them.
that they made that shape for JD.
Yeah, yeah, that, and then JD never wrote it. That was what's funny too is so Penswood owed me money, and I was kind of kicking tires with him, and I was like, all right, you have samples, you know, and because I didn't want to deal with clutch anymore. And he was like, "Yeah, I got these." He owed me money. He owed me money from Northern. That's what it was. So he never finished making these boards, and that was the only time first time in my life I had a credit card. I never had a credit card till I was like 30 something. This was when I was doing Northern with my partner Mike Gigani, and I was like, we got pissed at South Central at the time because they were taking too long. So I was like, well, we can go to Penswood, you know, like yeah, we all know everybody hates those boards, and but they do some cool stuff if you want. So maybe we can do some cool stuff, which I thought we did. We had this one board. We did a collaboration with this local coffee company, and they dyed the boards with the coffee. So that was pretty cool. And then
Yeah, they tried to do some interesting stuff. Like I know
yeah,
with they did like that tie dye board for Terror, and they did another one where it was like a weird like camouflage in the veneers, and
yeah.
so I
Hold
mean
on,
they've
hold
done
on.
some stuff over the years that were
They
interesting.
have, they have, and I'm just going to show you one that we did with them. So it's like I saved Mitch. I saved nothing. I swear to God, I
Oh,
saved
I know.
nothing.
I probably have a
And
better DOA collection than you do.
oh yeah, because I don't have any. So you definitely do. I have like three that haven't sold yet. But they did these Jason Lee boards,
Okay.
right? So what I told them though is I was like, I want these weird stains. Like, can you do? And I. It's funny though. This is typical dealing with a wood shop. And I was like, hey, can you use like fall earth tone colors and kind of just put them all over? So I don't think purple and green is earth tone, but they they did these stains on all of them, and every board was different, which was
Yeah,
pretty
that's
sick.
exciting. It makes it
Yeah,
exciting and different.
and my partner had them do this was on, which was cool too. They copied a shape of the old. It was a Jason Lee Dodo board from Blind.
Oh yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So they copied that shape, or they had that shape, or they said it's that shape. Um, but they did all of these, and they got them out for us. And that was they hand numbered them. This one signed by Jason Lee. That was a nightmare.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome of him to do it, but holy shit, because somehow it came up. Somebody asked, and I'm jumping all over the place here, but I remember somebody asked, and I was like, you know, like my partner and him were, closer. I didn't talk to him, and I was like, hey, he's like, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. He said he'll do it, no problem. We can send him a box of boards. He'll sign them, and we had to send him to this skate shop in Texas. Like we didn't send him to his house. We sent him to this
Right.
place, Denton Skate Supply, who didn't order any of the boards, and we were like, hey, we have these Jason Lee boards, and they didn't order any. But they took the box for us. He went there, I guess, got it, signed them. But people started asking. I guess word got out we were doing this, and there was so many people. And then they were all crying, "Where are the boards?" And I'm like, "Listen, man, I don't know. They're at the shop, and the shop, they had to deal. I'm sure they didn't want to deal with having find the FedEx guy when they weren't going to go like, oh, we're going to
Right.
go to the FedEx depot for you and drop it off. So it was whenever they found the guy, and they sat there for like 3 weeks, and yeah, people were like, oh, it's my board, and then I had to like ship these things. Like there was Canada, and so when we were doing Northern though, this board saved our ass because we paid all this money up front to Penswood. So luckily, the dude Joe did us a solid, I guess, even though we paid for him. But he got us all of these, so that was good, and we were able to like sell them online. So
Hmm.
you're getting full money on that. Sorry, shops. We did make a shop one, but not the limited one. Um, so we were able to get the money for this. So we were able to like break even on it, you know. Um, and Jason Lee waived his royalties on it, which was super awesome because we're as broke as the next guy, but we would have paid him. But he was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." Really nice of him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, super cool. And I think we donated a couple boards to like some kids thing. So it was like a school thing where they were giving boards to kids. So we're like, all right, hey, we're gonna donate some. Not we had the popsicle ones of these, so we donated a bunch of those for youth skating stuff. Anyway, yeah, so we had these all made up, and then they never like sent the rest of our boards. We had a Shiloh Great House board we did. They didn't send all of those. They didn't send half the boards. We had this Matt Town board we did, and the colors were completely off. And it was like, they're like, yeah, we got them, and we're like, yeah, these don't look right. And they're like, yeah, we didn't think so, but and it's like, you didn't realize these sucked after one. Like it was like the
Yeah.
board was like so toned down, it was like black. And yeah, so Penswood sucks. Screw them. They still owe me money. And I was trying to get. So that's how this came out. So I was trying to get money out of them. It wasn't we were going to go back to them. I was like, yeah, send me some samples. Maybe you can just do some DOA boards for me to pay off. Because he owed us like
Just a
$4,000.
write-off.
It was like $4,000 worth of boards. And it took him forever. I guess they'll show you DMs from this guy. Like, yeah, they're coming, and I'm like, yeah, that's been a long, 2 months, dude. It's been like a year, you know. But anyway, never sent him, but he sent me like 10 of those, that shape, and he was like, yes, this was an Alex Olson board. When he was starting up 917, he was trying to find a wood shop, and he was going to go to Penn's. Somebody was telling him like, oh, go to Penn's. It's East Coast. You're in New York. It's like they're almost like handmade boards, kind of. You can do some cool stuff. So he puts in the order, and they take so long because Penn sucks. Pens will take like 6 months before you get boards. And he went elsewhere and got boards. So they called him up, and they're like, yeah, we got your boards. And he's like, Alex Olson, from what I heard, was like, yeah, I don't want them. I already got boards someplace else. You took too long. But he had this custom shape he did. It was like this tapered shape. So I remember I showed JD, and he's like, oh, this is cool. And I don't think he ever wrote it. And that board, if it wasn't his first board which sold.
Yeah, because definitely his second one's on that shape too.
Yeah, and possibly a third. It was like.
Oh yeah, the Bukowski one is on that
Yeah,
shape too.
yeah, and I'm
So at
like,
least three.
it can't be the graphic. It's got to be the board. Yeah, that's done. And I was like, yeah, I stopped making that shape. And he was, okay. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't riding it.
Yeah, he didn't skate it anyway.
No,
So
he was
it
riding
didn't
paddle
matter.
boards. I think he was actually riding everything but DOA board.
Everything but a DOA board.
Yeah. Hey, if it works, that's fine. I don't care. You know. But yeah, so Pens would suck.
So while we're on the lane of like different boards that you did, what about some of the guest boards over the years?
Well, so
We did some cool ones.
yeah. So there was what was the first one? First one was Pat Washington.
Yeah, and that first American Dream series.
Yeah, I remember doing because I wanted to do fit, and I remember
Oh yeah, the fit
that was the
series.
first
Okay.
thing. So I was like, all right, fuck it. And I was trying to think and had a few beers in the shower, and it's like all these new brands. If I start a brand, it's just dead on arrival. It's already, and I was like, oh, DOA. That's the brand. Like, this is it. I figured it out, and cool. So I was like, all right, I got to think of a board or a logo like DOA, and I'm like, oh, Jeff Pang's jacket in Sky Pager, and he had this New Deal jacket, and he colored in the L, so it said DEA on the back. And I was like, if I make it DOA, and then it could be dead in the background, and I'll color in the D, and I'll color in, because if it's DOA, and then the E behind it, like, and what's funny is that first graphic, the Sky Pager, that took, I think, 6 months to come into fruition. Like, because I knew nothing about computers at the time either. I didn't do art. I didn't know Photoshop. I didn't do anything. So I had to rely on people. And it's like, oh, I'm dealing with skateboarders.
Yeah.
Love you guys. I do. But, yeah. Dealing with an unpaid artist. So this is like at their leisure. Doing what,
Mhm.
And I remember I was dealing with Willie Stackis, who was on DOA, because I kind of took all the Northern Flow dudes, or tried to. Like, oh, well, they're not getting on. I'll take them. I'll take the Misfit toys and do something with them. And, yeah, I remember having Willie Stackis try and concoct that, and I was trying to tell him, and I think he's just thinking, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you really want this, And it was funny, the dude at Clutch, because I was like, I want a flat and a gloss, and he's like, well, we can do embossing. And I was like, that could work. Like, let's try it. And that was the Sky.
I was wondering if they were embossed from the beginning.
Yeah, they were. I remember spray painting boards and taking like decals, like letters you'd get at like, hardware store. Like
Hmm.
just like stick on letters and putting them like black ones, like spray paint the board flat black. Take the gloss black letters and then the white gloss letters over them. And like this is what I want to do. And everybody's like, What are you doing?" But some people loved it. They were like, "Oh, it's so simple, it's so cool." You know.
Yeah. Oh, I love those for
Yeah,
sure.
I thought they were pretty cool, and then I could do different colorways with them and stuff. You always need that
Hmm.
your one board because it's cheaper if you don't have to get the new graphics. You save on the screening fees, which I don't
Hmm.
understand anymore because they don't hand screen boards. But it's like that's how they make money, I guess. But if you do the same graphic and you change the colors, they don't charge you a screening fee. So that saves you $40 a screen per color, I guess. So you could save $120. You know,
Yeah.
which depending if you do 120 boards, you just save a dollar a board. But yeah. And as far as the guests though, yeah, the first one was Pat Washington because I wanted to do a Fit series inspired by Fit because Fit Credo
And
is
that
like,
series I loved with the embossing too, because it had like all the city names behind
yeah,
it, where they were all the solid color. But as you
yeah,
skated it, it kind of showed through.
it was cool. I wish I saved one of those because there's like errors in it, and so there's ways if you do it on Photoshop, like you could like set those all up and just repeat them. But I remember typing each name and trying to place them the whole way, and
Oh,
yeah, so there's no, it's all random. Like that board probably took me 2 hours to like sit there and do all of that. But
type
yeah, I
them
was like,
all in.
oh, it was cool. People liked that one. That one people liked. And then I was like, for Pat, I wanted to do a rendition of his jersey from the Fit Industry section. He has this
Hmm.
blank Team USA basketball jersey. And I was like, that's the graphic. And I was like, instead of champion, we'll make it a P. And I remember I hit him up on Instagram because I was looking. I was like, oh, he still skates. Oh, he can still do this, like whatever. And I was like, hey, you want a guest board? And he's like, yeah, all right, bet. And I remember him. He's like, I'll call you. And I do remember it was like, so we're on two different time zones. He was in San Francisco,
Hmm.
but I remember it was like, all right, call me at 9, and I'm like 9 o'clock. Like, okay, so that's gonna be midnight by me. It's gonna be 9 o'clock by you. I remember it was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you know. But
Oh
he's like, all
man.
right, man, what's up? Sorry about that. And I was like, that's cool, man. And we were talking, and I was kind of telling him, like, and he's like, no, I still can do this, man. I don't want a guest board. That's like a tombstone. That's what he said, And he's like, oh, I can do this. And I'm like, like my inner child was like, yeah, of course, let's do
Yeah,
this.
like he wants to be down with the brand and not just a
Yeah,
guest board.
yeah. And I was like, all right, cool, man. Like, done. And so that happened. So it wasn't really a guest board, but that was like the first, and I was so happy to do it and do the fit. Like, I was like, oh, a fit shirt. Like, I'm done. I peaked already. This is anything I would have wanted to do. Because I guess the whole point of the brand was to bring back or bring awareness to older brands that passed that really you can't get again. So the closest thing I'm going to get to buying a Fit shirt, I can make my own DOA shirt that's in the Fit logo. You know,
Hmm.
um, I was like, I'll make the edit, and I was trying to make an edit similar to it, but it didn't work. I was like, I need to use the same song, which I'm still not happy that I had to. So I was like, I'll just emulate the whole edit and insert my dudes in.
Hmm.
Um, Nobody noticed. Like I was hoping to get called out on it. Like nobody even noticed. They're like, "Oh, cool edit," you know. Um, so it was fun to do it, but even with the edits, I would kind of take an idea. I don't know how much of it. Again, I remember James at Labor telling me who was always awesome and always took boards, and that was like really cool too. Like,
Yeah.
oh, Labor's taking boards. Like, I'm honored. That's like the shop in the city. That's where you go.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and it was like, wow, this is really cool. You're taking boards. But I remember he told me, he's like, these references, like a dude skating for 10 years right now started skating in, 2008, 2009. He's like, so that's a 10-year seasoned veteran. They're not going to know any of this shit. It's like, just so you know, it's your references are
Yeah.
kind of
You're
flying over.
25 years old.
Yeah, yeah, it's like they're going to fly over people's heads, And I was like, well, people think they're cool, which was
Yeah, people will think it's new because they don't know that it's an
yeah,
homage
so
to
it's you get
something.
that, and in my brain I'm like, but that's cool because I can totally explain every graphic. YouTube's free. You guys can go and learn about skate history, learn about what happened, all this cool stuff that happened that, you know what? they might even be taking stuff from now that you don't know, or tricks people are doing. And look, that happened already. You know,
Yeah.
that's who started this. Or maybe you'll see something that's like, oh, that's cool. I want to go do that now. You know, not knowing, you know, that any of these videos existed. But yeah, so there was that. And then I was like, all right, we got Fit done. All right, cool. Let's do American Dream, another amazing brand. And yeah, I remember reaching out to Jimmy, and it was like, hey, dude, because he was skating. I was like, can we do a guest board? You know, and I was like, I'm friends with Tim. Tim did Bob Shirt. He did your interview. Like, you know, but if you're down, you know, I can show you what I have and have, you know, here's some ideas. And he was like, yeah, this is really cool. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, all right, great. And it was funny because Jimmy, who started out as a guest board, actually ended up with a couple boards.
Yeah.
And he let me do another board down the line, which I wasn't expecting because Jimmy's like super normal dude. And I was like, he's not going to want to do this again, you know? And I remember that's from that board was how I ended up meeting you.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was,
And I had bought the Fit boards just because of JD being on the team, and I was like, "Oh, what's this brand?" But like, we didn't really talk until Jimmy got involved because like him and I were skating at that point a pretty good amount,
yeah.
and then you did
And
the 500 Fahrenheit episode with him.
yeah, good times, man. I should have all those episodes still. I think that's the only thing I've ever saved. I have 500 Fahrenheit episodes. I can re-release the
Yeah, 'cause I'm
secret
sure there's
files.
plenty of people that haven't heard them,
Oh,
and
I
there's a
know
lot
there
of
is because
interesting stuff on there.
they didn't get a lot of views. Um, so there's probably tons of people who haven't seen them, heard them. But yeah, so Jimmy guest board. Anybody else I'm forgetting?
Yeah, Pooch.
Yes. Wow. So that was another one. So then it was like, cool. We did American Dream, right? We did Fit. So let's do Capital. And because he was another one, he's skating again. It's like, oh, this is so cool. This dude skates. And I was like, he never had a board. Like, it would be cool to do a Capital board, and we could take, like, there's the one with the Capital on it, and there was a Andy Stone one, and there was a Pepe one. And I think they had a team one, too. And I
Hmm.
remember, like, I have this idea, and I ran it by Andy Stone. And he was like, all right, cool. Like, I just messaged him, like, hey, I want to do this. And Carlos is down, but I want to go through you because this was your
Yeah,
brand,
this was
you
your
know?
baby. Yeah.
But I'd like to do this. And he was like, if Carlos is down, I'm down. And I was like, awesome. That's, you know, really cool. There was also an indirect tribute board also I forgot about with, I did it for Comfort Skate Shop, and it was Tennessee Volunteers, which was
Oh, yes.
a Tony Ferguson girl graphic. So I just did, instead of it being the tannish color with a white tee, I did a white board with the tannish tee. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And then
Indirect.
we did two boards for Pooch, right? Because we did the Clockers one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That one
Yes.
was sick. I wish I had saved that one.
I, you know, that was one I had one for myself to skate, and it was in the flat mold. And one of my friends hit me up, and he's like, "Hey, how do I get this board?" And I was like, "You know what? I'll bring it down to the local skate shop, Bunger in Sayville, Long Island." I was like, "I'll bring it down there. I'll trade them out of boards. This way you can buy it there. They get money, you get the board, and you know." And I was just like, oh, "That was mine. That was mine." I was
Yeah.
like, "You're hanging it on your wall. You're not going to skate it because you're going to hate it." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, no, it's for the wall." And that was came from a Capital ad.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah, I think it was an Andy Stone board,
yeah,
right?
and so it was like, all right, cool. We'll do this as one, and then we can do the Capital one.
Yeah, like the team graphic. That
Yeah,
was
how did I
cool. But
forget that one? Because
yeah, I saved that one.
yeah, it was sick. We were trying to, I guess, work on a part or something for it too, but we just went with the old footage. Because I think he was too, like, Carlos was like, yeah, people want to see the old stuff. You know, that's like, so let's, you know, we made a little mashup. It was like trying to find clips here and there, and, you know, we got to make an edit out of that. But, yeah, good times, man. You know, and Crushed was always great too. The shop in DC, they were always
Yeah.
great to work with, supportive. And it's pretty cool. I guess the board sold there too, because there's a couple times they even re-upped, which is, it's really cool when you get to deal with these shops too, and it's like, oh, they'll re-up, or it's an area that's kind of like a destination, and you're like, all right, wow, stuff sold here. Like that's really cool, because those are usually, what you would think is your people in the know. Um, yeah, so that's it. And now it's dead. It's gone. And but
but yeah, I mean, because then you at the same time you have shops that will do something like that where they'll like super support it, and then you have other shops where it's like I don't understand. Like we're giving you this opportunity where we know people want to buy the boards. They're buying them from us because you guys won't bring them in.
yeah, yeah, and it's like part of me didn't like having the online store, because it's like, in the back of
Yeah,
my head, I'm like, not to sound like I'm the savior of skate shops, but it's like I want the shops to be able to, sell the boards and make money off it. And, it's like a cycle. If there's no point in a shop buying from me if I'm just going to go, run to the skate park and say, hey guys, here's $30 decks, or, I have my online cheaper than what they're going to sell them for, or whatever. But yeah, there's shops too. And then there's people like, yeah, I hit up my shop. They don't want to buy them. I'm trying. So where can I get them? And I would hunt down boards for people too. Like, I don't have any, but let me text this shop, or let me message this shop. Oh, so and so has it. This shop has a good online. Go to 35th Ave. Go to FA Skates. FA Skates the best.
hmm
John's the best. The best. So is David 35th. But I was like, these shops have good onlines. Go to them. You can buy the boards, and that always helped. And John was always good too, because he would look at sizes for people, or even like, oh, I want it in a green top in this shape. So yeah, but it sucks. It's hard when like you can try, like I could sell my brand, I could help you sell it. There's people in your area that want it, and the shops won't buy it. Which
Well, I mean, how many times did we have that conversation that there were shops that we had people on the team that
yeah,
wouldn't buy the boards?
oh,
Like
totally, totally.
we're giving people boards that ride, they're on our team, and you
Hmm.
ride for this shop and you rep this shop, but they've
Yeah,
never done an order, and
no,
not even
never.
like, oh, I don't know if the boards will sell here. It's like full ghosted.
Yeah, it's so
Like,
weird, and it's like, well, I'm trying to help your dude out, you know. And it's funny too, because I can think of two right off the top of my head. And it's like one, I think I was telling you this before, but I got one order. I think it was like 4 or 5 boards, and then I didn't get paid. Didn't get paid. Oh, they didn't sell, and it's like, all right, cool. Like, just take them. I don't even care anymore. Like give them out. Give them out at a demo. Like, there's no point in me even sending a call tag, getting these things back. I'll just write them off as promo, and you know, but that's it. And it's like, depending how many boards I give the rider, because that's the thing too. You start off, you're sponsoring people. So let's say you give a guy 3 boards a month, right? And I don't think that's a lot. That's if you're skating every day doing what you're supposed to, 3 boards a month isn't a lot. But that's, you know, 3 boards. So you have to sell that shop at least 6 boards just to break even, eye for an eye.
yeah,
Not even, because if you're getting 35 a board, you got to sell that shop about 4 boards to break even for the 3 you gave out. That's breaking even. So if that shop doesn't order, and or that's all they order, well, and then if you're not getting anything out of the rider either, it's like, you know,
yeah. Well,
it's a
that's a whole
wash.
different conversation.
Yeah, yeah, which is hard,
But yeah,
because
because it's
it's
like you want to, and the riders would even tell you like, oh yeah, I talked to the guy at the shop. They said they're down, but then we contact them and hear nothing back.
nothing, nothing,
And not,
and
yeah, it's like I could see if you were like, oh, we're going through a weird time right now, or we got a lot of boards on the wall, like something. Just be like, hey, but yeah, next season we'll get something going. This was, it's
nothing.
like, yeah,
Not even an answer. Not even anything you can negotiate or talk about. Um,
right.
and I get it. It's not like I'm you know, Alzheimer's or whatever the fuck, is you know,
Yeah, not to be like, oh,
limousine or
we're
whatever these
burying
these brands
anybody,
that
but
And I get it. Like, yeah, I'm not that. I'm not giving you that kind of an edit. I'm not giving you that kind of a team. But, you know, all right, cool. But yeah, it's hard. Like, if you're like from a scene and that's your guy getting stuff, like, I don't know, it would have been cool. But again, they should know. But it's weird too. Like, hey, but I have people from your area hitting me up. And that's when it gets like, kind of like, fuck. But
Yeah, and we would hold off as long as we could before, like, if we would get a season of awards in, you would wait a good 2, 3 months before you'd even put them online.
yeah, I started trying to do that at the end. Like, all right, I'm really holding out. Um, and then it's like, you know, it sucks because it's like I could have sold them sooner, or But
Hmm.
yeah, I try and always tried to like, because without the shops, what's the point? You're revived then, you
Oh,
know?
obviously, we're both in that same mindset of like the shops are your community and where everything is kind of based around.
Yeah, it's the lifeblood of skating, and I think shops are different now. Not all of them, but I think it's a different thing now from when I was a kid. My first board, like, you had, even if it was a bad opinion, but they would try and steer to you what they were into and try and like, oh, this and this and this. Now I feel like they don't even want to talk to you. It's kind of like, boards are over there, you know,
Yeah.
um, which is again John at FA, you know, David 35th. Even you go into Labor, you go into Bunger, there's tons of shops, Magic Bullet, Comfort, Seasons. Like, you can go in and you're gonna, well, this is why you should get this, or here's a story with this brand, because that's what I feel like. Every brand almost is a story. So, what's the
Yeah.
story
And
you're
it's
gonna
cool
tell?
because most of those shops I wouldn't have really any connection to before I was doing this stuff, aside from like, oh, yeah, I know this shop is cool. But doing the
Mhm.
sales stuff definitely opened it up where it's like, no, now I know these people everywhere and can kind of have those connections and see what's
Yeah,
going on in their scenes or like know their riders or know, whatever else, just because I talk to them more than just like looking at their Instagram or whatever. It's like talking to the owners and kind of bullshitting around and just seeing like what's going on there.
was there
Like
anybody
I
that
talked to,
like that you had to deal with that you were like, all right, cool, this, I'm so happy because I met so and so?
yeah, I mean, there's been a bunch like Scoggins I've talked to a bunch of times. Um, I've never even actually met James at Labor, but like we've talked so many times through like, emails and whatever. Like, and I love that shop. I think everything they do is so cool that like, it's like, um, there's a bunch, even like locally around here, that we have so many good shops. Um, that even shops that I didn't really go to because it was like, oh, if I need to buy something, I'm going to Nocturnal because I've known those dudes for 20 years. But there's so many other shops that I didn't really ever associate with because I was just, this was the shop that I went to. But now it's like I'm selling stuff to, you know, Nomad Supply or Home Base or whoever, and like I like all those dudes, so it's good to
Mhm.
like have the connections everywhere.
Definitely.
Like if you're saying Brian at Crushed, I haven't been to DC to skate in forever, but I definitely want to get down there. We've talked about like if I got to stop by the shop if we go down there.
hmm And it's cool to meet people like that. Like, I've definitely, over the course of the brand, got to meet a lot of cool people. You meet a bunch of assholes too, a bunch of people who fucking suck. But I met a lot of cool people and made some good connections, and I'm happy about that. Uh, it's just, I guess the whole point of it is when it's not fun. And so you had the pandemic, and then after the pandemic, like, everybody had 50 million boards. I know, like, it was crazy. Like, Bunger by me, they had like 400 decks in stock. And that was a place when I'd have a run of boards, I'm like, oh, I can drop off 40 boards, no problem. Like, done. And that's a
Yeah,
huge, that's the local. That is, they're on Long Island, I'm on Long Island. And it was like, oh, there was a time I took back like more than I dropped off. Like, oh, they took 30 boards, or I took back like 21 old ones. I'm like, oh, I'll give them to the team, and it's like, it started with that, and like, and then it was like that. Can't get boards, can't sell boards because no shops need boards,
I mean, shit,
and
I'm dealing with it right now.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because
You know, every
you are.
every
Yeah, you have a very big resume now, very big list of
yeah. Thanks to you,
who
now all
you
of a
got.
sudden I'm repping multiple brands.
Yeah, so what are you repping for now?
I'm doing Politic and Terror of Planet X. So if anybody needs boards,
There we go. You know who to hit up. Hit up Mitch. Yeah, Politic. And that's the same wood as DOA. So if you like the stock DOA board, you go get a Politic. Um,
yeah, get those good South Central boards.
yeah, yeah. And Damon's a good dude.
Oh, for
And
sure.
Ross Norman's on. Danny Renaud.
Yeah, exactly. You can ride a
Dave Cadam.
Renault board. You can ride a Ross Norman board.
Yeah, which is, and it's pretty cool too because Damon lets me help out with graphics here and there. So it's kind of like I get to
Yeah.
get my little
So
creative
even if
thing.
DOA is dead, you can still kind of be involved in.
Yeah, and that's all I want to do is like I think I had more fun making graphics or something than everything else. Like it was kind of fun the whole creative process. Even if most of the time I'm the only one who understands what I made, but it was fun to make it. So it's pretty cool. Like I still have some sort of an outlet to do something.
Yeah.
Usually, or even Damon will
Right
say
here,
like,
you
"Hey,
pop in the. God.
no, just he'll give me like here, can you turn this into a board. Like here's this album cover. Even like yeah, I can move these around and da-da-da. And I was like, all right, I did something.
I said, like, here's where you pop in the image of the Politic gold bar board that you turned into a DOA board because it didn't wind
Yeah,
up
that
being a
happened.
Politic board.
That was a couple of them. But yeah, that one was supposed to be a Ross Norman board, and Ross had the idea for it, so he was like shooting me ideas. And this is when Damon still had his partner, and I sent it to Damon. He's like, "My partner's not going to go for this," And I was like, "No problem. Here we go. DOA, dead on
Right. Now
arrival,
it's a
done,
DOA board.
perfect."
I got the
Yeah.
Steve Durante purple tape behind me.
See, look at that, and I got my Ross board that I conceptually did. Since Ross was always wearing Carhartt pants, I was like, "Oh, turn the thing over," and I made like this like mock up of it, and then Damon's old partner went and like did the same thing and put a Politic logo. That you know, so I have that, my claim to fame. But yeah, it's yeah, it just became impossible, not fun anymore. Riders weren't doing much. Some of them were. Like I don't want to throw them all under the bus, but it's kind of like you need edits to promote a brand. And if I wasn't able, I hurt my Achilles. I wasn't able to go locally to go skate and film for a while, and it's just like cool. And the only person who had any footage, I remember telling my Japanese distributor Mori, who's always been great, Mori at Beacon in Tokyo. But I don't think he believed me. Like I was like, no, nobody has footage. And I was like, yeah, the only person who has footage is Drew, and then Drew passed. R.I.P. Drew Grabowski. And he was the only
It's
one with
crazy the
footage.
timing of that. That like right when that happened, is he was the one that had the stack of footage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he was always motivated. Me and that dude would boom butt heads all the time.
Oh yeah,
I remember, and it's like I was like, I'm gonna kick this kid off. There was times I was like, Hey Seasons, do you care if I kick this dude off? And CB's like, gotta do what you gotta do. Like it's not like And I remember I'd talk to him, and then we'd be like, all right, cool, we're just misunderstanding each other. Because I remember one time my friend Eric made an edit. It was the Grandmaster one, and Drew was like real upset about the positioning of his footage. And I remember dealing with that with Eric, and I was just like, man, Drew, like you're crazy. Like, well, my New York footage doesn't match up with the other New York footage, and I'm just like, what? Like he was super heated, and I was just like, I don't need to deal with this. But we talked it
but
out.
then the
Everything.
fact that he always had that much footage for like every project, he had stacks.
Yeah, yeah.
He
He
was at least
cared.
consistently skating.
Oh, he cared. Like that was it. Like he was like, I ride for DOA. Like, and he would get his footage from people. He probably made people hate him, who were like saving it for a homie video or something. And he was like, no, this is my sponsor. I need footage. So he always had stuff. And I think honestly, I'm gonna say he was trick for trick the most talented one on the team, easily. I think he also was the one who rubbed people the wrong way the most. but he cared. He was super passionate. You know, always, like I said, he went to San Francisco. Like, yeah, this whole trip, he, every which way something came up that had to change a flight, or I'm not going to that airport. I'm going to go to LA first. Change it. Okay, changed. Yeah, I'm not going to LA first. Can you change it back? Yeah. Okay, changed. I'm going to go on this date instead of that. Like, holy fuck, dude. But
Yeah,
like I
like
said,
I don't
when
think
he,
you realize how much this costs to change a flight.
no clue. You run a brand. Everybody, you run a brand. You're loaded. That's the mindset of it, and it's like, no. I tell everybody, like, even doing sales, I was like, here you go. Here's your commission check or whatever it is. You made more than I have. I've never made a penny off of this. I think I got a camera out of it. Like, oh, we need this camera. I can write it off in my taxes or something. But which is
Yeah,
cool.
but
And
you're like piecing it together just to pay for the next season.
yeah, and it's like, all right, we did trips, so it's like, oh, we had a good run. There's like $2,000 in the budget. Who can go away? Or what do we need to get? So, and so it's like, oh, Eric, you've always helped out filming. Here's some pennies. It's just, yeah, it's hard. Or sending boxes, to people who helped out.
Yeah, and then
But
like other brands make more on like soft goods and things like that, where it's like, and nobody was buying T-shirts.
no, it was weird.
Like
I had when I did the
it
fit
makes.
section, when I did like the fit
Mm,
uh, drop, I think that's the term. But when I did that, the clothing for that did really well. I think I actually I paid one of my friends to take photos, and I had everything ahead of time. It was like perfect storm. Everything came in ahead of time. I was able to take pictures and advertise it or whatever, and that worked. And I was like, oh, cool. If I get this on time, and then sometimes it was like I have the shirts, but I don't have the boards. I got to start paying the clothes off. So now I got to sell the boards as soon as they come in, so I don't have time to do everything right.
yeah, it's two like completely separate productions, but then you're not getting shops that just buy a run of T-shirts. Like you have to sell them
No,
with boards, or they're not going to take them.
no, that stuff. Even the shops with the clothes, that was like a losing battle. And then it's also numbers are so small, so you got to give it to the riders, and it's like, all right, cool. So give the riders clothes, and it's like margins aren't as good on this as they are, because I'm only doing X amount. I can't do like I do boards.
Exactly.
So it was hard. It was super hard. But yeah, you give the rider stuff, and it's
But
like,
those are the things that like the average person doesn't think about because they're just like, oh yeah, you definitely make more on apparel than you do on hard goods.
right, which in theory you could. The shops aren't taking it. So if I was selling it online, now I got to sell it. So a T-shirt costs, let's just say, $10 to $12, right? You got to sell it to a shop for 12, so they can sell it for 24. Because they're going to make their double margins on it. Whatever. They're going to mark it up. So it's like, wow, I made $3. So for me to give out a shirt, and if I'm selling them to shops, I give out one shirt. I got to sell 4 shirts just to break even on that one I gave
Yeah.
out. And then these dudes don't even wear it. So it was like at the end, I was kind of like, yeah, this dude doesn't even wear them. I remember Toby Bennett when he was on, and he was like flipping the shirts inside out, and I was like, I'm never sending this kid a shirt again. Like, you're the best skater in the universe, but I can't afford to just give you blank shirts. I might as well just go buy you
Yeah.
blank
I
shirts.
just send you blanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, holy Jesus. But yeah, some people would wear them, but and I'd see who's wearing it. Drew would always wear it, so I'm always like, Drew, I got you on stuff. But the ones who don't wear it, no, there's no point.
And it's funny, you were like the most understanding brand owner when it came to that kind of stuff. You're like, oh, you're not riding DOA boards? It doesn't matter. Or you'd
No,
make it into a joke. Like
yeah, and I get that.
you make an ad out of it.
Yeah. Well, when I first started it, I have the ads still. And I remember people were pissed, like the team I had, they would get pissed. Or I was like, where's your guys' footage? And they wouldn't have it. And I would like make Instagram posts like, here's how sponsored am works. Like, stop skating. Don't film,
Yeah.
ask for product, sell product, and yeah, they didn't like that. And I'm like, well, if you don't like it,
Yeah. It's brutal
get,
honesty.
get footage. Like, I'm 40 something years old, back then I was 40 years old. Like, if I needed to go film something as crappy and mediocre as it be, I could go out, film,
Yeah.
and I'd have footage. You guys are actually good and you have filmers. So what do we have to do to get the footage? And some people just don't want to part because they're like, oh, the homie video, the homie video. Well, have the homie buy your boards, and I understand some of those homie videos. I started learning to deal with them. Like, all right, well, I'll have a good Instagram update with this part, cool.
Yeah. But you got to learn to like space it out. Like you still got
Yeah,
to
I mean,
take
sometimes
care
you
of the
could,
person that's keeping you rolling.
yeah, and sometimes you could like kind of plan it out where it's like, oh, this is going to drop at the same time boards drop, so I have something to promote the boards with, like. But yeah, it sucks. And Toast, I love Toast, nicest kid, but just and I'm gonna say it, he just didn't get it, and it's like, dude, you want boards, you go through a lot of boards, I give you boards, like, cool, you're associated with Crush, you're associated with Magic Bullet. They take a lot of boards when they take boards. Magic Bullet would take
Mm-hmm.
Mark and Magic Bullet, Mark Eystone. So happy I got to do a guest board with him.
Yeah.
Just the
Oh
best
yeah,
dude.
there's two guest boards we've been.
Yeah, him and Scoggins, those two. That was like, and I wanted to do more of that stuff. Like, if I would have kept going, I wanted to do things like that. But yeah, I was like, all right, these people are taking boards, but at the same time, it's like, dude, I can't keep giving you boards, and where's the footage? Like, and I don't want your
Yeah,
C
what are
footage.
you doing with these boards?
Yeah, well, he was skating, but it's like, where are you filming? Well, I'm filming with this dude. I'm filming with that dude, And I remember even with him, I like his friend Will, who was filming and was making a video, but I was like, hey, can you get me anything? And the dude was, okay, cool, and they went like for a weekend and just got some stuff, but it's like, I'm trying to make an edit and you have 3 clips, like, but I've given you 10 boards, you know,
Yeah, it's hard to get that rationale of like, how do I
yeah, $100
justify
a clip.
giving you this many? Yeah, exactly.
Seriously, like $100 a clip. Awesome. Plus, I sent your film boards. Pretty cool. So that stuff sucks. There's riders I've given cameras to. I don't even know where those cameras are. I remember doing the high 8 edit and giving people, and they wouldn't film on it.
Yeah, it's like, what's the point of why did you have me send you this if you're not going to use it?
Yeah. And it's like Quasi started, they're doing it. Not like I originated high 8. I mean, the Palace was doing it and all the, the low def footage, but I was like, oh, I want to remake a 90s video. So let's just film it all in high 8. This will be cool. I remember going on eBay, getting all these cameras. And that started, I was at a thrift store, and I saw a camera, and I hit up Damon at Politic and Ray Prize Fighter, and I was like, do I buy this thing for $20 right now? And Damon was like, if you don't, like, just buy it and give it to me. And I was like, all right,
Yeah,
I'll buy it. And I started messing around with it, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, let's make this old video. Like, this
yeah,
will
it
be
still
cool.
works.
And I sent everybody cameras. And I remember the dude Chris Jada was on. The fucking worst. Worst dude. Ever. Ever. Worst dude. And I should have known because before even hooking him up, like, he followed, and I don't think I followed him back. And he unfollowed. And I should have known right there, like, dude's an egomaniac, But yeah, I gave him one, and then, like, I was just over it. Like, had problems with that dude. Because he was older too, and I was like, "Hey, we can do a board," and he's like, I don't want a board, da 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 da." And then somebody else was like, "Yeah, he doesn't want a board. Why'd you offer him a board?" And I was like, "Okay, cool. There doesn't have to be a board." And then like 6 months later, he's like, "Hey, that board, can we do it?" Like, what? No, like, dude, we're done. You don't get this. Like, no, it was this whole big shit show, not having one. Now you want it, and I was like, "Where's your footage? You gave it to everybody else. I don't get anything. You gave me old footage where you have like skinny jeans on." And so he got pissed though, but he like threw out the camera. And I had footage of John Devine on there, which I think I have on my cell phone actually. Like, I taped it through the monitor. But yeah, that footage was gone. So I was like, all right, cool. Wasn't anything he couldn't do again, but it was still like, awesome. You little girl, you threw it out. No offense to girls, but yeah, like, you gotta be kidding. Scumco kicked him off too, so I'm not the only asshole. Dude sucks. But
Yeah, some people just don't understand the give and take. They just think like, oh, I'm good at skating, I deserve this.
yeah, no,
It's
that's
like,
the
dude,
truth,
there's
man.
so much more to it.
There's a lot, and it is. There's a lot that goes into it. Like any of these brands, like if you ride for a brand like Scumco, like I remember somebody telling me like equating it like this, but like every board that dude gives you, that's like a meal. Like that's a day's worth of eating for him to like, it's just because it all costs something, and there isn't this big like a big brand can just write off tons of stuff. It's candy,
Right.
but like when you're working like on a small margin and you're giving these dudes boards, it's like it adds up, and it's like I get it. You guys need boards to skate so that you can film, and like I got to provide them for you. I'm your sponsor, so here you go, you guys, whatever you need, and you know when everybody's filming and it works, it's cool because then you have content. You can make edits, you can get that out. And everybody, I'm going to say for the most part too, everybody was pretty cool. Like, whether I don't know if they ever told, like, behind closed doors were like, what the hell is this dude thinking? What the hell is this edit he just made? But everybody always kind of let me run with it and do what I had to do. Even Drew, if I made it something, he never argued about it. So it was always cool. I had like free creative control, and they all kind of went along with it. Like nobody was, not into it. Like Slinky, I could always get Slinky. Those dudes in Texas were so good. They always had footage. They skated all the time. Eric was always awesome. Eric Wen, always awesome to deal with. Like that, and that would be like their throwaway was like insane footage, and he's just like, yeah, here, because they skated and filmed all the time. I remember it was a thing like, and nobody wanted those dudes on either. I remember that. Not nobody. Like Kyle Rum didn't care. He was always easy to deal with too. Kyle was always the best. But yeah, I remember like, when Koki was on, and Koki was the best skater. Like, I wish I could have had more footage to promote him and, do stuff, but filmers are making their own videos that take years to come out, and, again, there's no footage. How do you promote a pro without footage? But I remember they didn't want the Texas dudes on, like, it was funny, Drew said it too, like, whatever with those dudes, He's like, so they live in Texas. That's all they have to do is skate. They don't have anything else going on there, And I'm like, yeah,
Like,
but
did you have no idea?
yeah. And I was like, yeah, but they kill it, And they always come through. And Eric's the easiest person in the world to deal with. And all those dudes, a lot of those Texas dudes are really cool. Like I'm super happy I met them. Select was really good to deal with in Texas. Yeah, Javi who worked there, awesome dude. Eric, awesome dude. Ben, Slinky, awesome dudes, But yeah, I was like, those dudes filming all the time are keeping you with boards because you're not getting me anything. I used to tell them that.
Yeah.
Like, those dudes are making up for what you're not doing, so you should be thanking them because we got to make edits. The brand's too small to just take off on its own, and there's no big name here. I don't have, like, this isn't Alex Olson's brand. This is like some dork from Long Island's brand nobody cares about. It's like... I don't have the, star power to sell boards, We could if you guys all skated and did what you had to do. Like, yeah, maybe something cool could happen. But, we need to make edits and get stuff out there, But, again, it is what it is, and who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it had both sides to it because, like, honestly, like Herb's the best skater ever, but
Yep.
did a lot of people really know who he was before he got on DOA?
No. Yeah, so with Herb too, I remember looking at Comfort's Instagram, and he did a switch nose manual at this like prefab park they have, like on a pyramid from flat. And I'm looking at it, and he had like skinny jeans and like a size small shirt on, And I was like, Chris, who the fuck is this dude? Who is this guy? And he's like, oh, that's Herb. And I was like, where did he come from? I was like, I've never seen this dude before. Like, I follow you. I look at all your posts. Like, oh, Herb's always been here. And I was like, I want to give that dude boards. Like, see if he wants boards. I got to give this dude boards. Like, and he was telling me, like, yeah. And he was like, he was like, yeah, he tried to get on Quasi, but they said no. And I was like, well, Quasi's stupid. I was like, but also, like, this kid needs a little baggier kid on, Like, I remember, too, like, sending him a box. And I was like, what size shirts? And he's like, medium. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm sending larges in here. Like,
Sending you larges.
Trust me.
Doing you a favor.
Yeah. And he was hyped. He was like, oh, these fit way better. And I was like, yeah, dude. Like, cool. I'm happy. I think they do, you know? And he is literally the best skateboarder. Like, I can say I had the best skateboarder in the universe on DOA, you know? And he's so good, and it's just crazy to me, too. Like, his footage is, like, held. There's the Threads dudes, and they don't share. Those dudes do not share. They make their own videos. Cool, you know? But they gave me, I remember once they gave me stuff, and it was, like, 10 years old, and he had skinny jeans, and it was, like, cool. Like, awesome. You know, it's just weird there. It's like nobody has a camera to film him. He'll get cell phone
Yeah.
footage. He's always going to give you Instagram updates. But I wish he came out to New York for 24 hours. We got 3 clips. Well, I was with him for a 24-hour period. He was out for a week, but it like rained the whole time, and I had work, but it rained a lot. But yeah, we got nollie backside heel flip switch manual down Roslyn, and it was wet out, and I think that took him like 10 minutes, not even. And then we got
Crazy.
2 tricks the next day. It was sunny out. 2 lines, kind of. It was like a single with tricks after it, and then we did a line that was super quick. And he's like the kind of dude you're just like, he didn't tell you like, hey, I want to get this. It's like, hey, can I film that? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then like 2 minutes. I think it was all that was on not even 10 minutes of tape, those 3 clips. And that's like when he went to San Francisco and he stayed with Ryan and they got along. And he filmed like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes out there, you know,
Yeah.
in a week. And it's like, just get him out with a filmer. His
Yeah,
thread
that's what
parts were sick.
he's somebody that just needs an opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Like I tell everybody that. Just get him somewhere and get a camera on him, and you kind of have to just say like, "Hey, I'm gonna film you." Like, don't ask, don't wait for him because he's not gonna. He's a nice dude. He's not gonna say like, "Hey, can you film this?" You know. But you just start filming him, and yeah, you could film a part of that dude. If he came out to New York City and stayed for a week, he could film a 3-minute part. Yeah, so it's been real, you know, and it's done. People were pretty bummed, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's nice to hear back from some shops that were like legitimately disappointed that it was done. Like John from FA
Yeah,
said that a few times.
hmm yeah, and he was the best too because he was even in the edits. You know, I used to like
Yeah.
incorporating all these dudes. You know, and Jeremy from Conservation, awesome dude. Like again,
Hmm.
I met all these cool dudes, and they were so cool with like what they could do. And like Jeremy has a small shop, Conservation, and
But
he
they
would
would
always
order every season.
yeah, he would take what he could take, and he's like, no, the boards sell. And I was like, oh, it's cool because he is into it, so he can tell somebody like, hey, check this out. This is a cool brand. Here, look at one of their edits. What do you think? Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, like some of these, like, unfortunately, the brand was so small, it needed like to be spoon fed to people. I think
Hmm.
like it needed somebody like, hey, there are these edits out here. Take a look. See, oh, that is cool. Okay, I can buy that or something. You know, just sitting on a wall. I don't know if it gets passed over, you know, by everything else or, you know, rightfully so. I mean, Quasi should sell a lot of boards. There's no reason they shouldn't. You know, they have a great team and they put out good content. So it's like that's what you're up against, and what's a kid gonna take? You know, you're not like most people aren't like me that are like, oh, but I need the right board. I don't care about the graphic even. I need the right board, and then it goes from there. You know, so it is what it is. But yeah, definitely a lot of good relationships. Um, you know, it's too easy now too. I think for people to get boards. I think that's a thing because I think even like I had a tax ID, did everything right. I think there's people that just pay cash in hand, give the wood shop money, and they get boards. Like I think that kind of sucks.
Yeah, like you have to do the legwork to make your shit legit.
Yeah, yeah. Or there's people even like, oh, I want to start a brand. I had so many people like that. It's like, oh, this is cool. Oh, your boards. Where do you get them? Oh, cool. And then you like turn around and they're like, oh, this dude's making boards, Threads. I remember I started off, and the first dudes on it was Jim Arnold, and it was Jim Arnold and Nick Girton. So they were on Northern Flow, and they came over, and then they were like, oh, can you put our friend Randy on? Randy Rhodes. And I was like, sure. This is cool. You guys all film like together. We'll be able to do stuff. There's the 3 of them. And I remember like kind of saying like, I need a promo. You know, we're gonna make this promo, and I have this idea in my head. and it was gonna like I want to make something similar to the fit industry section. I was like, I kind of want something like this kind of a style, and Alex Rose was totally like, no, we'll make a video and we'll secretly encrypt your logo somewhere where they're not visible, and you know, it'll be like in our threads video, and then we'll have like, you know, a northern section that will be so subliminal nobody will know what it is.
Then nobody will even know what it is.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I was like, that was like the vacation. Like you guys did that with them, and what happened to that brand? You know,
Yeah.
not even having Ross Norman on them could save them. You know, it was that was it. There wasn't any content because it was all those dudes, and they just kept the footage for their videos. So I was like, I can't have that. And then it's funny. So I had a call from Scoggins, and he's like, "Are you backdooring boards out here?" You know, and I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm in New York." Like, no. And he's like, "I just had 2 kids come in with DOA boards with no grip." And I'm like, oh. So I hit up dude Jim. I'm like, "Hey Jim, Scoggins said some kids are going in there with boards. Are you guys selling the boards I gave you?" "Oh yeah, man. I had a parking ticket," and I'm like, "Oh my god." Like, dude, this brand's too small. Like, you can't do that. At least sell them to somebody who's not going there, you know? And
Yeah.
so I hit up Alex Rose, and I was like, I remember I was like, "You guys are selling boards?" And he's like, "Well, they have red tops, and we don't ride red tops." And I'm like, "Dude, they're fucking orange. They're not even red. They're like blood orange. They are a deep orange." "No, man, they're red. We don't ride red." And I was just like, holy shit, like this is, you know, like this is the beginning of the end, and nothing even happened yet. And then they were like, somebody told me like, yeah, they're gonna start threads, and I was like, are you guys done? And they're like, yeah, thanks for everything, but you know, I'm like, oh god. And then they started going through South Central and making boards. And I remember Alex hit me up, and later on he was like, hey, I give you credit. You guys always gave us stuff. Like this is super hard to do and super hard to give free stuff out. You know, and I'm like,
Like, yeah.
yep, no shit. It sucks. And even with Northern, we always gave them boards. They would just, you know, call for boards, and it's like, oh, well, you guys make cool videos. Sure, we can send you a couple decks out, and you know. So, you know, it has its ups and downs. It's hard, but yeah, people do that. That's not the first time that's happening. There's tons of people where they're like, you know, where do you get them made? What do you do? How much does it cost? You know, and yeah, shit sucks. But it is what it is. It was cool. All the edits are still up on the YouTube page. So if anybody ever wants to watch them, I'm going to keep all that stuff there. If any of the riders want me to pull it down, whatever. The Instagram too. I'm going to keep all the stuff there. Who knows? Maybe there'll be like a dead air radio board honoring somebody or something. It doesn't have to like totally
Put
disappear.
my part up, and everything went to hell after that.
No, it was a little after that. It wasn't because of that. It wasn't because of that. No, that was fun to do, man. It's funny though because like there's stuff like that, giving Mark and you know Chris boards, like it's kind of like in my head I'm like, oh, this is so cool. These dudes are in it, you know, like they're skaters no matter what. And then it's kind of like, but people are like, I don't get it, you know. Yeah, because their boards, I had a lot of. They didn't pick their graphics. That was me, like, oh, I'm gonna do this Salmanaga, you know, thing because I remember these boards like good and evil, like Chris is good and Mark is evil, and I'm gonna do these boards, and this is so cool. And I always wanted this one Salmanaga board, you know, the pink one with the devil, and there's this Cardiel photo, and he's riding it. And I was like, cool. I want to remake that because I never got it, but it didn't translate over well, I guess, to people. A lot of the team was riding those boards. But I also kind of anticipated it, so I was like, all right, I got to make them in the team sizes just in case.
Yeah.
I did that with Drew's board because I was like, how the hell am I selling this Jersey board? Like, dude, it says Syracuse on it. I don't even sell to shops in Syracuse. Who the fuck's buying this? And he was like, nah, gee, that's my graphic. And I was like, all right, your first board. You always give me footage. You can have your board. I even thought
Whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to make less. And I didn't. But I made them like almost all. I was like, all right, 775s, which are weird. So if any shop wants a 775, they have to buy this board. And I was like, I'll make them all 8 1/4s. And the dudes can just skate them and spray paint them if they have to, like whatever. And they all sold. Like it was
Yeah.
crazy because even Seasons didn't order initially, and Drew was like super pissed. And he was like, "You're trying to sabotage my career."
Oh, I know he was bummed
Yeah,
at me, and I'm like, I did my part. Like I hit everybody
yeah.
up. I can't
And I
help
was
it if
like,
they don't
I hit him
read
up
their
too.
emails.
I hit him up too, and then it was again. So he hit up Seasons, and it's kind of cool. Like if he didn't do it, I don't know what
It
would
might not have
happen.
happened.
And
Yeah,
he was like, "What the hell, my board?" And they were kind of like, "Can we get like 5 boards for Drew or whatever?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, sure, sure." And they hit me up and they're like, "Hey, how many do you have? And can we leave our online open all night? And whatever sells, we'll buy off you." And I think they sold like 35, 40 boards overnight.
yeah,
And I was like, "Whoa, cool."
yeah. Because by the time the other shops up that way hit us up, they were gone.
Yeah. And it was a weird one too because I wish those dudes who were supporting Drew after he went pro were also supporting us prior because we could have done a lot more
Yeah,
with Drew.
if we had known that his
Well,
board would sell.
again, it's yeah. I mean, it's a pro board. Who knows how well the second one also like.
Hmm.
Again, JD's board, his first board with the graph that was his idea. He always had pretty cool ideas. That board sold insanely, and then it's like it's by the third board it was like, and again I think it was probably that shape. Nobody wanted that shape, um, but it didn't. It kind of dies down a little. Um, but even Kyle Rem too, his first board, second board, but his first board like I remember there was people going into Bunger like freaking out, and they had them, but they're like, oh, we're not putting them out until Monday, so like they couldn't sell them, and I was like, oh, you guys have fun with this, like because there's people calling like, oh, we heard you got the boards, we got to go down there and get them, and they're like, oh, we're not putting anything, we're not holding them, yeah,
Yeah, well, when he's like your local dude, I'm sure it made
hmm
sense. Like, which is nice when JD went pro because he's local to so many different places.
yeah,
You know, I thought that was cool because like I could sell them down here, but they sold at labor really well.
hmm yeah. Nocturnal always took boards from him too. It was
And
cool. He's a great skater. Just it's the documenting. And when I was
yeah,
not hurt, like I could drag him out and film him. You know, but there wasn't much. I was actually shocked when Valenti gave me footage because I think Drew. I want to say Drew. He gave me, or Drew hit up Valenti for footage that he had, which is so weird. I can't see that dude filming Drew, but he gave me Drew footage, and then he gave me like JD footage. And even JD was like, "Huh?" And I was like, "Dude, thank you so much." And he was like, "Yeah, no, it's my boy. I want to help him out." And I was like, "Holy shit! Like this stuff usually doesn't happen." So that was really cool. Um, that was good. He had a palace board in that clip. Um, you know, uh, yeah, yeah.
I would
But
expect
eventually,
nothing less.
yeah, it was cool. I mean, shit happens, you know.
Yeah, he
But
had
it's
some
just
good
hard.
ones.
It's
I'm
hard.
looking at the board that. Oh my god, I'm gonna blank on his name. I feel like a complete asshole. Um, Pat, his second board, the one that Pat did for JD, the bodega one. It's all white with the black sketch on it.
Oh, yeah, Pat Yago. Those were so
Yeah,
cool. And that's like,
yeah.
so if you look at that board too, there's JD. There's like little homages to like people they
Oh,
know.
there's
There's the
yeah,
dude,
all kinds of
the
stuff on
dude
there. It's
Clem.
cool.
There's this dude Clem from Virginia, and he's like almost. I think he's like a homeless guy, like sitting outside of it or something. And there was the
That's
Ben
awesome.
Havren one where it's like the Texas. It's like a
The
bar in
saloon,
Texas. Yeah, Pat
yeah,
was the best. Pat made the DOA logo.
or whatever.
But all right, cool. So we're gonna get into a couple questions now. I left it up on the Instagram stories. So there's the Dead Air Radio page, and then there's the Dead Air Radio 101, which everything's gonna kind of go to, which was the old DOA page. But I just, if anybody had questions in the Instagram story. So, Mitch, we'll start with you from the old DOA page.
All right, so I'm going to read these two together
Okay.
because I feel like they kind of go in the same vein. So the first one is how many homies asked for discounts or free shit? And then it says how
Okay.
many people said
Uh,
they buy stuff and then just never did.
did you get a lot of that, Mitch?
Oh my god, this is the
Yeah. Did you get a
always the
lot of
like,
people?
hey, so how can I get a box? It would be random of like how do I what do I got? Like, if I buy a board, do you think you could throw a
Yeah,
couple extra in, or it's like you have no idea how this works? Like if I throw
yeah,
two extra boards into your one board order, I
yeah.
still just took a loss of
It's crazy because and people
however
don't
much. So
understand it. Again, it's like, oh, you run a brand, you're set. Or there's a lot of people too, and they're like, oh, you just run the brand for a living, and it's like, no, this is like high reward, lowest paying job ever. You know. Um, but yeah, people ask for discounts. Yes, there's also ones where people go like, oh, how do I buy your boards? Or I remember there was one time there was this one dude, and we were skating, and some random dude, but we were skating, and we were talking, and he's like, I don't ever like telling people like, oh, I run a brand, but somehow it came up, somebody told him or something, and he's like, oh, cool, like, oh, I'd get a T-shirt, like that's so cool, and I was like, I'll give you a T-shirt or something, like I have an extra one here or something, and then it was like every time I posted stuff like, oh, that's so cool, I would buy that, and, like the dude was like expecting free. And someone wrote back like it might have even been Eddie, like, yeah, here's the link to the
yeah,
website, and the dude never bought anything. Um, yeah, totally. People want discounts. Benson, it's Benson would always buy. It was funny. Like I had like I said, we were saying meet a lot of cool people during this, and I had like this little group chat on the side, and I gave them like like, hey guys, you guys have been doing this since day one. Like here's a little discount code, and Benson was like, all of a sudden I see like 4 orders pop up with this discount code to people I have no clue who they are. And I was like, who gave the code out? And Benson's like, oh, my one friend. And I was like, dude, you're done. Like, no more discount codes. Like, doesn't work. Like I need to make back as much as I can just to break even. Like, yeah. But
yeah, I definitely had people that were like, "Oh, I need those boards as soon as they come in." He's like, "Let me know, when they're available." And I'm like, "All right, well, I was like, if you're really dead set on you want this certain thing, I'm like, let me know ahead of time." I'm like, "Well, you can pre-order it if you want to, and like, I'll make sure
mhm.
we set them aside, and then when we come in, we'll send them to you." Like, very simple, like, because that way
Yeah.
we'll have them, especially with like the flat
Mhm.
boards. Like, we only get so many, and they go fast. So if
Yeah, I know who you're
you
talking
fuck
about.
around and miss it, like that's not on me. Yeah,
Yeah. It
but
happens.
it was
And it's like,
multiple people
money
were like,
talks, man.
I'm like, dude, you can get them.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't save it
yeah.
for you, hoping that you're
Because
gonna,
then it's like, oh, I got these boards. Like, oh, I already
eventually grab
bought
one.
one. You know? And I get it. And loyal brand, think of brand loyalty as such a difficult thing. Think of how many brands are out, how many edits come out, you know? And like I said, not everybody buys boards like me because of a certain concave or like, because I have a fucking zero board right now. I hate it actually. It sucks. But it was a dwindle wood zero board, and it was like medium concave, medium kick. So I was like, spray paint, I can try it. I hate it, but like I'm always looking for, so that doesn't matter. But there's people who can ride whatever. So if you can ride whatever,
But then you have other people, like, you have pro skaters that legitimately do
yeah,
their job and make you want to buy their boards. Like
yeah,
that Del Negro footage that came out yesterday or whatever. The first thing I'm like, dude, I get boards. Like, I don't need to buy boards, but I
yeah,
want to go out and buy a Mark board tomorrow because that footage was so sick, and I just want to support a dude like that that's
yeah,
like
totally, totally.
only
I was
getting
like,
better.
and I can't ride stock South Central boards, um, but it's like I want a Ross board, you know, like I almost set that thing up like 5 times, and I'm like, no, because I'm gonna hate it. But it's like, oh, he put out a part. This is so sick. I still get little kid like that, like, oh, new Palace edit's out. It's cool. I want a Palace board. And then I'm like, what the fuck did I buy? This thing sucks. I can't ride it. But yeah, you see these things. So it's hard to be brand loyal when all this stuff comes out. So I get it. But at the same time, too, it's like, oh, how do I get this? I want this. And then they don't buy anything. So it happens a lot. Too much.
Well, that's why, like, there's certain people that I like respect the shit out of, like that dude
Hmm.
Young from like up by home
Yeah.
base area. He would always buy boards.
Yeah,
Like, he
totally. And
was,
he'd always buy.
this is
And
what I ride.
Young Jun, best dude. And he would always buy. And he tried to buy from a
Yeah,
shop. They
super cool.
wouldn't stock it. And it was funny. The one time they did stock it, he didn't buy boards, and I think he had boards or something. Like he bought boards before, right before they got him in, and
Mm.
so he never like he didn't buy one there. Um, but he would always and like never asked for anything. He was always like, "I'm so happy. I just want to get these boards." Like, hey, I know you didn't. I saw you got boards in. You didn't put them up yet. They won't sell to me here. Like, can I? Like, I'm out of boards. I need boards. You know. And it was always like, yeah, I can just put two online for you or whatever. And you know,
Yeah, especially people like him that
no,
like don't
nothing. And I'm
ask
like, dude,
for,
here,
weren't even
take your shirt.
asking for
You know,
anything.
like, oh, really? You sure? Like, yeah, dude. Like, you're helping out a lot. Like, and you're really into it. You know, so good, dude. It was really cool to.
Yeah, same thing like Sean Splessy, the same way. Like he did municipal, and when municipal was done, he was like, "Oh, just I
Yep,
like
eight,
South Central
eight three
boards."
South Central boards.
I'm like, "All right,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll look out for you." Like,
definitely. But that's what it is. Like people like the wood.
but never asked for anything except for like the
Yeah,
opportunity to ride
yeah,
those boards
totally,
because he liked them.
definitely.
So some of those other questions were,
Oh
would you
God,
do a run if we put the
who
money
is that
together?
from?
Which I thought was funny. It's like, no
Oh,
way.
um,
It's the same person
no,
from Eddie.
no. You don't want.
Yeah, because everybody says they're gonna buy shit, and then
This is
when it comes
crazy,
time to
and
buy
I'm gonna
shit,
put this out
they
there.
don't.
Like, just so a run of boards when I was like got up to doing like 800,000 boards, you're paying your bill is like 20 grand. That's real money, you know, and to break like it's pretty. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mitch, it's kind of
that's
crazy. I'm
buy
thinking
a
about it
car
because
money.
everyone was like a whim to break even somehow. Like it was like, how am I gonna break even? You know, and I always managed to break even, but like that's a lot of money. So Eddie, if you want to put up 20 grand with a huge risk of not making it back, I'll make graphics and you handle everything else. I'll make
Yeah, let's go for
graphics.
it. I'm down.
You can you can do the logistics. Mitch will do the
I'll
sales.
do your sales
Perfect.
for you still.
Um, yeah, no, it's just a different market now. It's a different industry now. It's
And that goes into his last question
oh,
where it says, "At
I
what
mean,
point
it's
did you
probably
say
been about
fuck
a year.
this?"
I'm gonna say it's about a year. And then it was
So
finally
many
like
times.
I was getting scared of even getting the money back. It was like so hard to get the money back to pay South Central. Where I remember it was like up until recently actually, and I was like, oh my god, I got it. Like, all right, cool. Here's the money I owe you. We're done. I'm not taking any more chances because I don't think we can do it anymore.
And we had some weird things in that last
Yeah,
year, like the death of 8.1s, where it's
yeah,
like,
and it
dude,
was like,
no one wanted an 8.1. Like we had everything else sold out,
yep. And
but
the
for
run
some
before
reason we had a
that, it's like,
shitload of
oh,
eight
you don't
ones
have
left.
8-1. It was there's always no.
Yeah,
That was
there's
always
no
a
like
losing
rhyme or
battle.
reason to it.
Picking sizes, you're never gonna win that one. I've learned that one. Never in a million years. And it was even funny. I remember running a couple nines. Like I'd run a couple nines, like DOA 9-inch board. Like who those buying? And they would sell 8.75s, 7.5s. Like it was, but yeah, 8-1 was like everybody's like, I don't want an 8-1, you know. And it's like fuck, that guy should have just made 8.2s.
Yeah, it was so weird because we had like that season. I think
Yeah,
we had what two or three 8.1s in the line, and none of them sold that. And it's not that they were bad graphics or anything. It was
yeah,
just
and you'll never win. Like I
that
said, the
size.
run
No one
before
wanted
I
it.
made so many because the run before was like, oh, you don't have 8-1, you don't have 8.3. They were sold out. Like yeah, I didn't make any because they never sell. Now I made them and nobody wants them. Yeah, never win that one. Did you have any other ones? All
I
right.
think that was it. Cobra, Cobra. So can I be sponsored
No,
when you make a new team?
sorry, Cobra. No.
Yeah, sorry, not after your
Yeah, yeah.
buttholes
I
question
forgot
from
about
last
that.
season.
Cobra has a kid. He's done. Cobra has a brand. Cobra has a brand.
Oh yeah,
He's got boards. I think he goes through Clutch. I feel bad too. There was this Christian wood shop, Anno Domini. So people would ask me like, "Hey,
Oh
yeah,"
yeah, we
and I
talked
remember
about
that
that in one
they
of the
like
other
took people's
episodes.
money. I was like, "Wait, you guys paid up front? Like you never do that. You always pay at least half up front. Like you never pay full up front." And they're like, "Oh, I didn't know." And they paid full up front and like they were like out of business. So I was like, "Yeah, you got to cancel your credit cards, man." But all right. So let's see. I got one here from Brian Henrik. What's the hardest part of running a brand? Team riders with no footage, shops who don't pay, shops who don't order, wood shop issues, list goes on and on. Internal issues, time, money, etc. Yes, time is hard. It's the second job. Like I said, it's a non-paying second job. It's time consuming.
Yeah,
Money, yes, because you have to pay your vendors back. So that sucks. Etc. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in it. Or external suppliers, act of God, and COVID. Yeah, COVID was good, and it was also equally as bad. In all honesty, it went from here where you couldn't keep anything in stock to now I can't sell anything because everybody has everything because they bought everything, and brands would just send these pre-books out. Yep.
and pre-booked everything they
Theory.
possibly could have. Yeah, I mean, I'm still seeing that. Literally, it's been 2 years since all the pre-book started mashing back in, and
Oh,
shops are
and
still overloaded with product where it's like I can't get them to
no,
take
and it's the
a
big
dozen
guys too.
boards
Everybody's
now.
hurting. Everybody's hurting.
Yeah, and it's not bullshit because I go in and stop by these shops just to check in and say what's up, and everybody's got a
Hmm.
wall full of
And that's
boards
dead
plus a
money they don't
floor
make a
full of
lot on,
boards, and
and it's all paid for. That's like
yeah,
a ton
exactly.
of money. It's scary. Like I said at Bunger, I remember they had so many. It was scary. All right.
It's all paid for unless you're
Yeah,
DOA.
yeah, which
Then
is
you're
bad. So if you
still owed
start a
money.
brand, don't run consignment on anybody. Um, okay, Rodrigo Yepes. Speaking of shops who owe money, there's one of them, Mountainside. Um, if DOA ever came back, who wouldn't be a part of it again? Well, Herb's on politics. I wouldn't be able to take him back. Um, no.
Yeah, you couldn't take Herb.
Ah, this is I don't want to. This is bad because I usually I like all the guys. I'm a softie. Yeah,
Yeah, there's nobody on the
Chris
team that
Giotto
was
wouldn't be back on.
problematic,
Yeah,
especially in
I mean
well,
everybody
in
kind
this
of.
era.
It would have to be like a reevaluation. In all honesty, it'd be like, all right, who didn't film or who didn't give footage? I don't know. Who wants to bow out gracefully? You know?
Yeah, will
Yeah,
force
I
Jimmy
think
to
he
actually
probably
want
would
to
have.
do boards again.
Jimmy's pretty cool. He seemed to like it, so I'd run a graphic by him, and he. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but well,
he
I
just
guess
didn't
that's
like
it's
the
DOA. I don't
attention.
have to even film for it. We're good.
Yeah, too humble
Um,
for his own good.
all right, let's see what else we got here. Chris Scoggins, are you sure it's over? Yes, Chris, I'm sure it's over. Do small brands that resurrect come under scrutiny like big brands? Oh, like Stereo 2.0, like something like that. Action 2.0. These big brands making the 4.0,
Yeah, Action
just like
3.0,
iPath. Yeah.
straight to
Um,
Ross.
I don't know. What small brands come back? Like, I guess you can always keep a small brand going if you just made 50 boards, you stay in business. Like, if I really wanted to, I could say, like, hey, I'm just going to do 50 boards, but you know what? I don't want to do the taxes and all that bullshit on it. That's another issue. Like, it's such a headache doing the taxes and doing all this shit and having the bank account. And because it could, sure, 50 boards, they come along, we're still doing it. Guys get boards, and, but I don't know. If I knew a small brand that made a comeback, can you think of any? I can't. Like, small? Was Rafa Libre small? Because
Yeah, no,
there
everything's
was yeah, no, and they were
yeah,
always
but they
kind of.
didn't start off small. They
It
their
was
first
in through deluxe, and then
incarnation
when
was
it
through
came out, it was
deluxe,
smaller. And I
right?
think both times it was cool. It just was run poorly. Like they didn't really like go off target. They were actually like
Yeah.
pretty cool, and it was like, oh, they were cool, and done. Um,
Yeah. Not that they were the coolest, but like, didn't
yeah.
Roger go away for a while and then came back and then done
Tomic.
again?
Tomic was in the group chat with the discount codes. How much tenderloin did Pat Washington buy with royalties? From Benson. I don't know. We'd have to ask him. You guys can do that. I don't know how much tenderloin he bought. This is God. I should like filter these out. All right. Bobby, what do you guys think about the pros releasing shit brands like King Skateboards and Disorder? Um, hey, they can do what they want to do. Everybody's, you know what it is? Everybody can, shit, Mitch, there's a term I'm thinking of. It's like you can always build a better wheel or something, you know? Everybody thinks they can do it better. There's something.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
reinvent the wheel.
Disorder. Like, who cares what Nigel does? I mean, he's bigger than a brand anyway, so he's probably like, well, I can ride for Element and get paid this, or I can make my own boards and take all the money and make whatever, you know? Yeah, and that's like Kmart shit
And people
anyway.
will buy it.
King, I mean, sure, Tyshawn, do it.
I mean, shit, look at Tyshawn's that first
Yeah,
board, like that whole first round of
so they
boards
win.
gone as soon as they went online. So, like, as
Yeah.
terrible as I think that crown
Well,
graphic
you know what
is,
I'm gonna say?
it
Like,
sold.
whatever you say about the dude, there's people that are into him, and he deserves it. He's good. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, I can't knock it. He left FA, great. They're a big company. Who cares? You would think like maybe they would have worked something out. Like, hey, we'll give you a brand on the side. Um, like, remember Expedition did that with Stevie and DGK in the beginning. Like, that's kind of cool. Maybe do
Hmm.
something like that.
And I kind of respect where he like. I watched that one Thrasher thing that he had where he kind of talked about like, yeah, nobody was skating. Like, I would go to like LA and try and skate, and everybody else on the team was like doing their
Hmm.
weird fashion shit or doing
Which
whatever
is,
else, and like he just wants to skate,
of course,
and like as I respect that. Like that's where your first priority should be. Like you can still be doing that other stuff, but
definitely.
yeah, your first priority should be skating
You're paid
if
to
that's
skate, and
what
I'm
got you
shocked too
there in
because
the
that
first
dude
place.
makes money. So I think it's kind of cool. He wants to skate and film, and like he sees that as like this is my paycheck. And you got those other guys, like I said, they're doing nothing. So totally get it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can't knock. Look, I have my own brand. Not like I ever did anything else with skating, like where it fit into this. But like, I can't knock anybody else for doing their own thing. I did it. It is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. There's plenty of big brands with terrible graphics too. So it doesn't matter if it's a small brand or a big brand or what. Like, there's plenty of bullshit out there that
Yeah,
could
totally.
easily
I
be
can't,
weeded
like I said,
out,
I
but
can't knock
it's
any of
not.
these dudes for doing anything. I mean, like, so if we flip this around and it was like I had one of my riders quit to start his own brand and it like, with no idea of what they're getting into, like, yeah, I'd be like, have fun, you know? Like, or even then it's like, I can help you out, but like, you have no clue what you just
Mhm.
got into. Um, but yeah, when those guys are that big, like, they're their own brand anyway. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. And like, if you're a brand owner, like, if you're Dylan Van Engelen, like, you got to think too. You started a brand taking people's riders, so eventually and you left a brand to create a brand. So of course, eventually your guys are going to leave to create another brand. It's just how it works. Um,
Right, yeah, like when Alex and BA left and to do their own thing, it was like, yeah, how can you be
oh
mad
yeah,
at them when
totally.
you
Like, and it's funny
literally did
too.
the
Like
exact same
that's
thing?
how girls started. They all mutinied from the world brands and went over. Like your guys are going to
Right.
do it too for the same reasons. And it's like I remember there was something, and one of the dudes was like, "Yeah, Rocco actually wasn't treating us that bad." They were like, "We actually didn't have it too bad," because when you're in that, you know,
Hmm.
you're in somebody else's shoes, it's kind of like, "Oh, this is hard." Yeah, and then it's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
this
grass is
costs
always
money. This
greener.
stuff, all this stuff for free. We were going there and raiding boards, like stealing boards, like that cost money." You know. Um, so let's see.
Yeah,
P
absolutely.
bras. You know, Pat. I have to ask you,
Oh
Mitch,
man.
when we can expect a guest board from one of the 9 companies he works for now. You know what? That's funny. We never did one. Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
really missed the boat.
Well, who knows?
I'm sure it would have
You'd be
sold in the
surprised, Mitch.
single
You're a
digits.
likable guy. You'd be surprised. Um, yeah, that's gonna
Tell
happen.
Angel.
Angel. Yeah, Terra
Everybody else
Planet
gets a
X,
guest
Mitch
board on
Hartman board,
Terror. Why not?
2025. So this is from Chris Saint Hilaire, who was one of my favorite riders, who would definitely be back. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Chris always tried. He was super
100%.
good too. Like better than his footage ever showed. I had fun. We met up in New York, and like he got a bunch of clips. We skated for one day. It was cool. It was like he was like a kid in a candy store. I remember we passed this one spot with these shitty ledges, and he's like, "Oh, this is the best spot." And I was like, "Are you fucking serious? Like this sucks, dude. Like we can go anywhere." And he was like, "No, I want to skate this. Look at these ledges." And I was like, "Okay, man. I'm not gonna stop you if you want to get footage." Okay, but he said, "Do you think the small brand slash niche skate companies era will come back?" Yeah, everything comes back in cycles. Skating runs in 7 year cycles. I think that's usually how it is. You get your highs. Let's think of like the early '90s, like '92. Skating was dead. Late '90s, it started coming back with Workshop. Was that '99, 2000 when all that started coming back? Skating was huge, big money.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it kind of was
Yeah.
always like, oh, it's
The
never
BAM
going to go
era.
back to how it was in '92, which was the all-time low. Magazines were like 30 pages. And it never really went down, but then, 2010s, 2011, I guess it was kind of level. And now it's like there's money in it, but it's like the weird kind of money in skating now. It's not the same. But I sure. I just don't.
Yeah, it's a whole different. There's definitely like a top 5% of people that are like
Yeah, if that.
legitimately making money, like making
Uh-huh.
big money, and
And
then
it's also,
there's
you know what? There are
everybody
these
else.
small brands, but these small brands actually have big riders now. Like limousine. Like I don't think that's big. They probably
Yeah.
how many boards are they making? Like how many boards would they have money to make? Do you know what I mean? Um, if they're just doing it themselves, unless they have some sort of a
Hmm.
backer. So you know, if they're doing that and they're selling, I mean, they're popular, but it's a small brand. As big of a following as they have, I mean, is Weekend big? I don't think they're considered like a big brand. I think they run it out of a garage, basically. I could be wrong. So I think there's big, small brands, but I mean, like, of everybody having a brand, or like, yeah, no, it's so hard to sell boards right now. But I think those days will definitely always come back. Everybody, like I said, Tyshawn's brand. How many boards do you think he did? 500. You know?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a weird number. Like, did you bet on yourself to
Yeah.
like, can I sell 1,500 of this graphic, or did you just make like? I wonder if they knew like,
Yeah.
oh, this
You
is what
never
I
know.
sell at FA.
Yeah.
Can I do this myself? But I mean, the fact that it sold out instantly makes me think like it wasn't a gigantic number of boards because
Hmm.
I don't
You
see
got to
anybody
think too.
riding them.
So even if you sold like,
But
let's just say you did 500 boards, right? So that's like $10,000 worth of boards, and it's just him and Nikel, and they're not selling the shop, right? It was only online.
and
Oh, well, then there's three of them.
Zach's
So even if
and
they
Zach
kept like,
Saraceno, but still three of them, but only one. Like
yeah,
there was
and
only
it's like,
one a
so even
Tyshawn
if he
board in the
sold it and
first
he owns
run.
it, right? And they were straight online, and I don't think they were cheap. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so if he sold them all
yeah. I
straight
don't even
online,
think
even if he
Supreme got
sold
them.
like 250 of them, that's a nice little chunk of change to invest back into the company to do a lot more. Because you're getting full profit on that. You're not selling to a shop who has to resell
Yeah,
it. Um,
right.
if so, what do you think will thrive most? I think it's like the small brands with the big name owners. Like I said, like a King, limousine you have with all these like Max Palmer and Cyrus. You have these dudes on it. Like that's gonna take off just because the riders are desirable. I think anything pro run or ex pro run, I think that has like a huge help a huge aid. You know, like someone's buying a DOA board, it's like I said, it's like some no name dude who runs this. But if like remember Hella Cool? Did you ever hear of that? So yeah, and it's like
Yeah, Kelch's
no
brand.
offense, James Kelch, but geez, those graphics were horrible. The brand was terrible, but you'd see shops buying them because it
Yeah,
was James Kelch's brand. So
just because of
imagine
Kelch.
that's like
Yeah,
I think I had this talk with Damon. And it was like imagine that Hella Cool was, let's just even say, let's pretend it was Politic. Imagine how well that would have done. You
right.
know, like oh, it's James Kelch's brand and it's cool. Like that dude, he's a legend. And that's his brand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like they've got cool graphics,
and
they've
then
got cool riders.
wheels, shoes, boards, clothes. I know a lot of people only wearing things made by the homies. Oh, if so, what do you think will thrive the most? As in wheels, shoes, boards, shoes? No, shoes. You can't make a small brand shoe. Yeah,
Yeah, you
unfortunately,
can
like
see it
State,
hasn't it
they're
hasn't
trying to
worked.
do a good thing, but I don't see anybody wearing them. You know, it's shoes are, and it's expensive as hell. I think it's like $1 million, like just to get shoes made up or something crazy. Boards, clothes are hard because a lot of people go thrifting now, so clothing brands are super hard to do. You can go to thrift shop and find stuff for next to nothing. Um, wheels, wheels are impossible because Formula Four already owns the market. What's the closest thing to Formula Four? You have bones, like people buy those, and then you'll have like Prize Fighter Ray was using,
Hmm.
a wood shop that a lot of other people who aren't doing Spitfire, Formula Fours or whatever would use, and the wheels are cool, but it's just a different wheel. Like people want Formula Fours, they never flat spot, or those stupid Andy Anderson wheels, because people want soft wheels for some reason. But like the wheel market is more technologically advanced than skateboards, so like there's already
Yeah,
that
it's
product that's top tier that you're not going to be able to compete with. So wheels will never.
yeah. So unless you're supporting your
No,
friend's
they're good.
brand
They're
and
normal
riding like
wheels.
a,
Just
oh,
the
these wheels
wheels,
aren't
kids aren't
bad.
going to understand that a wheel can flat spot because they'll be like my Formula Fours never did. But PFC was cool because it was a board brand, a
Yeah,
wheel brand with like a board brand's branding, which was pretty cool. But it's hard, so that's not going to go. Close boards are easy. Boards you can always do in a local market. People are always riding boards. If you have, pull in an area, people will, your friends will buy. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's the
totally,
most gone through
totally.
product.
And Mitch, that's it. Weird. I had a bunch, but it was just like little heart emojis and stuff.
Okay.
Um, so I guess that's it for season 2, episode 1. I guess we can probably do these. What do you think? Like twice a month? Is that fair? All right, cool.